What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, I'm going to be doing my full review on the Samsung Galaxy A11. Now, this might come as a surprise, but I actually think out of the entire A series lineup so far this year, that this A11 is the phone that might just attract the most attention. And here's why. Last year, in 2019, Samsung came out with the A10, A10s, and A10e. And all of those phones, but particularly the A10e, were some of the best-selling smartphones overall around the world, and including here in the US. In fact, the A10e is even one of the best-selling smartphones in 2020 through the first half of the year. That means that everyone with any version of last year's A10 will likely be looking at possibly upgrading to the A11, and that people even this year are still looking to buy a simple, affordable smartphone to incorporate into their daily lives. And I do think the new A11 has the potential to be that device once again. I obviously have a lot of thoughts on this phone, so I won't waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it and see what the A11 is all about. First off, let's talk about price, since I think that's going to be one of the main deciding factors for people considering this phone. Right now, you can pick up an unlocked A11 from places like Amazon for as low as $140. This phone has actually been out for a couple of months now, and the price has started to come down. If you're in the US, a number of wireless networks and prepaid carriers have also started offering this phone for sale. Verizon, for example, is listing the A11 at a discount of $130, with AT&T having this phone as a free device if you want to switch to their network. Anywhere you end up looking, you should likely pay no more than around $150 for the A11, but you'll probably be able to snag it for even less. In my opinion, that's a pretty solid price for a phone like this, and I think it's going to fall well within a lot of people's budgets. And by the way, if you guys are interested in doing some comparison shopping of your own, or maybe want to buy this phone for yourself, I'll leave some links down below in the video description to where you can get this phone at its cheapest current prices. So be sure to check down there so you don't miss out on any good deals. Right away, I think the first thing people are going to notice about the A11 is its size. At 6.4 inches, it offers a slightly larger display than last year's A10 and A10s, which is great. So if you wanted another big screen smartphone, you're in luck. In addition to the increase in size, we also get a slight design change this year as well, with an Infinity O camera cutout at the top left corner. You do still get a sizable bottom chin there towards the bottom, which I wish was a little slimmer, but all in all, this is a design that's updated for 2020 while still indicating that it is a budget smartphone. And I guess I can't really complain. The thing worth considering though is that while a big screen is great, the sheer size of this phone won't necessarily work for everyone. Like I said, it's a big device, and with that, you sort of need to figure out if it's comfortable for your hand. Personally, I do find it somewhat manageable. It's a bit of a stretch at times, but I realize I might even have a little bigger hands than some folks. The extra 0.2 of an inch in size increase from the A10 isn't going to be noticeable if you're coming from that, but if you're used to anything less than, say, a 6-inch smartphone, maybe try this device out in stores if you can first, or draw out the dimensions at least on a piece of paper, so you can get a clear understanding of what you'll be working with. To me though, a large screen on a budget phone like this is still a pretty big plus, and it's certainly one of the selling points. Now, the actual display itself, the screen technology, isn't anything too special. It's pretty much what we've seen before. It's a 1560 by 720 resolution PLS TFT panel, which basically just means LCD, and it packs in around 268 pixels per inch. This is comparable to what we saw on the A10 and A10s last year, so if you were hoping for an upgrade, you don't exactly get that here, but with the actual viewing experience, I don't have any complaints. At this size, while it isn't the sharpest screen in the world at 720p resolution, I think it still looks good, so long as you're viewing your content from a normal distance. If you want to go ahead and stare closely at the screen and try and pick out the pixels, it's something you can do. There's no hiding that given the resolution, but you have to consider the price point here. Everything else, including the colors, look good. The screen gets plenty bright, and I think Samsung does a nice job with their own sort of version of LCD. All in all, it is a good viewing experience. For most people, like I've said already, the big thing you'll likely appreciate is just how much screen real estate you get with a phone like this. Watching movies or shows or just browsing through social media on such a big screen is really pretty nice, regardless of the resolution. And that big screen size paired with the budget price point make it a great combination. Taking a look around at the rest of the phone, you'll see that the A11 certainly isn't trying to hide the fact that it's a lower end device, but I think the phone does still look good. This light blue color looks particularly nice, and it's not something you really see on some other smartphones. The fit and finish of that all plastic build is of a little higher quality, and the actual material with that sort of glossy finish looks and feels nicer than it is. It's a good looking phone in my opinion, and in the couple of months that I've had it so far, it's held up quite well even without a case. I do actually consider plastic to be a bit more durable than glass in the event of a drop anyway, and I only have just a few minor, barely noticeable little scratches from normal use on the plastic housing. Also, physically, the A11 isn't really missing anything either. You've got a headphone jack, charging via USB-C, which is a must-have even for a budget phone, plenty of camera lenses, and a fingerprint sensor around back. I like that this phone has a physical rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. I think the lower-end phones should keep this setup for a while. It's simple, it's easy to use, it's fast enough, but most importantly secure, both for unlocking the phone and using for other purposes. The A11 does also have Face Unlock, which I always have enabled as well, since it too is a quick way to get into the phone, and while the wake and unlock sequence isn't as fast as some other devices, it's more than good enough for me. By the way, that awkward corner camera placement I feel like didn't really affect anything either, which is good. Inside, the A11 packs the specs that maybe weren't exactly what some people were hoping for, but I think there's still enough to work with, just depending on how you might want to use this phone. It's powered by the Snapdragon 450 chipset, which on one hand is a bit older of a processor now, but at the same time, it is what we got in last year's A20s, along with a number of other devices. So it's kind of like getting last year's slightly higher end phone specs in this year's budget phone. And it is still a Qualcomm chipset too, after all. You have the option of either 2 or 3 gigabytes of RAM, which if I have to pick something to change, that's probably it. More RAM would have been better. And for storage, you get 32 gigs built in with the option of adding in an SD card if you want to, which I absolutely recommend you do. Here is the Antutu score for the A11 for those of you who like to see some numeric values, but in real world use, Android 10 feels pretty good, even with these specs, and for the most part, navigating the UI and flipping through the apps is a non-issue. Everything feels fairly smooth. The only sort of blips or hiccups I did come across were when you want to close out of some of the more intensive apps you were using. It sometimes took a second for the phone to catch up or revert back to the home screen, but with a second or two of patience, the A11 did catch back up. You have to keep in mind too that this isn't a workhorse sort of a phone. While you can push through app after app all you want, with only 2 or 3 gigabytes of RAM, not a whole lot is really running in the background anyway, at least not staying current, and I would say that this isn't a phone you can push all that hard. It's certainly not for power users. It's mainly the kind of phone where the things you'd want to do are the simple, easy stuff, like phone calls, text messages, a bit of social media, maybe Google Maps, or website searches. Now, if you want to take it a step further with gaming, you totally can. You just have to keep your expectations in check. Launching and loading something like Asphalt or Call of Duty takes a good chunk of time, maybe a full minute or beyond, just to get to the main menu. And when you are in game, there are certainly going to be instances of lag or frame drops. It's not perfect, but 95% of the time it's good, and obviously just in general, the games are more than playable. Realistically, there isn't anything this phone can't do. It is still a 2020 device after all. It's just a matter of understanding what this phone really is. It's a lower end device, and there's going to be blips and hiccups and instances of lag every once in a while. That's just how it is given the specs, especially if you're trying to do a lot. But all in all, I don't think the specs are a total negative if you're going to be using this phone for mostly easy stuff anyway. If you're hoping to multitask and game and run your phone into the ground all day, every day, then this just isn't the device for you. When it comes to battery life, I actually found the A11 does a nice job making it through the day. The 4000 milliamp capacity is a good size, bigger than average really, and paired with that lower resolution screen and less powerful specs, you get the right combination that yields longevity. Most importantly, with the USB-C at the bottom and a 15-watt charger included in the box, you get juiced up fairly quickly too. While I wouldn't necessarily call the A11 an outright champion when it comes to battery life, you do still get a device that pushes through the day and then some pretty easily, and that's certainly more than good enough. Finally, in regards to cameras, while Samsung did put in some effort here over last year, once again, this is just where you kind of have to be realistic with your expectations. The new triple lens setup includes a 13 megapixel main lens, 5 megapixel ultra wide, and 2 megapixel depth sensor. And up front, the selfie camera is an 8 megapixel f2.0 aperture shooter. Now, as far as the software and features, you get just the basics. Obviously, the wide angle lens is handy, live focus shots are here, there's panorama, and even some pro controls for manual adjustments. And the phone shoots 1080p video both around back and up front. You miss out on things like night mode and a few other features, but realistically, this is the setup and software features you can expect with a phone like this. Now, in practice, the A11 can actually take pretty good shots from time to time, but there are a few things worth considering. For whatever reason, in my opinion, I found the results to be a bit lacking in color, perhaps overexposed maybe, which contributed to the image feeling lightened up. Nothing that can't be changed with a quick edit though. There's a surprising amount of detail in most shots as well, which is great, and I actually found the selfie camera to be better than expected. Again, a bit pale and void of color, but nothing too terrible. Like most budget phones, the real issue comes with low light and nighttime shots. The quality quickly falls off and you don't really get a ton to work with, but looking past that, I think if you just need to take some pictures with the A11, you can do so comfortably, but with how good smartphone cameras are on other devices nowadays, I do think some folks may feel like they're missing out taking pictures and videos with the A11. So here are my final thoughts. Overall, I do think the A11 is an interesting budget option. Now, to be totally honest, do I think it's as good as the A10 lineup was from last year? Not exactly, but that's only because the bar has been raised so much higher in such a short time. Last year's A-series phones were just that good, and it was obviously tough for Samsung to follow that up with any crazy huge updates. However, I think the A11 still does offer a lot, and the minor changes this phone did receive may be good enough for some people to upgrade. I still consider it a great value all in all, but given the huge lineup of A-series phones this year, I might just consider something like the A21 or A21s instead, just because those phones likely offer the kinds of upgrades you could be looking for. So there you go, that's everything you need to know about the new Samsung Galaxy A11. If you guys have any questions at all about this phone or have any thoughts of your own, do let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.